All right. So anytime I teach a volunteer how to mix or teach any type of class on mixing or even mixing for myself, the most important thing that I always tell people that if everything else in the entire mix sounds incredible, that it will not matter whatsoever if people, one, cannot hear the vocal, and two, if the vocal is harsh or not pleasant to listen to. People will forgive a bad snare drum or a bad sounding bass guitar, but they will not forgive a bad sounding vocal. It's the number one thing that drives me absolutely crazy in a mix. So let's go ahead and start talking about how I process vocals. So on vocals, the very first thing that we have in our chain is Waves Tune Live. So Waves Tune Live is a great product. It's very, very low latency, and it is the easiest that I've ever used in setting up a natural sounding auto tune. So let me unbypass that. It's going to be a little bit hard to hear with just me talking, but it's on there, and it really does a good job. After that, we go into I did have a gate. I had this gate on, and I ended up not using it. I like the gate on the X32 better, so we use the gate on the X32. After that, we go into VMR. If you guys don't know what that is, it's Slate's virtual mix rack. And by the way, on the tuning, I train my volunteers to use their planning center order sheet, and they just change the song key and with every song. I found that chromatic version of this sometimes pulls to the wrong notes, and so if you hit it in a major scale or a minor scale, depending on the song, just you train your volunteers to go ahead and make sure that they're in the right thing. So VMR is a virtual mix rack. If you don't know what it is, look it up. Slate's everything bundle is only $14.99 a month, and it is stuff that is slabbed all over this mix and all the other mixes that I do. The first thing I have on there is an SSL console emulation in this virtual channel here, followed by the Ssl Eq. So there's a bunch of different options. As you can see on the left, there's a ton of different plugin options. Every single time they come out with a new one, I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And then I always end up coming back to pretty much just these three plugins. I'm the same way. I buy all kinds of Waves plugins because they run those $29 deals, and it is like crack for me to buy those. I'm addicted to buying plugins, but I always end up coming back to the stuff that I use here, it seems like. So it's probably a personal problem, too much information, but little word of advice: if it works, just keep using it. Don't try to change something that's already working. So I go to this Ssl Eq. This is the primary female vocal that I'm using right now to talk into, and so the male vocal looks a little bit different. I can show you guys those plugins as well. And I'm also going to, in the resources portion of this website, you can download this exact Pro Tools template, and so if you want to just throw that in and look at the settings, then you're more than welcome to. So I have a little bit of a boost at 8K, just very slight, so a 1 dB boost. I cut a ton around 3K, so 3.7. I'm cutting almost 4 decibels. The pretty medium-sized Q. Also at 400, I'm cutting to get some boxiness out of it. And then right around 200, I'm cutting because it's a live mic and the proximity effect is a real thing. Some of our singers sing far away, some of them sing really close, but the ones that sing really close, it makes a huge difference to cut that 200. And then I'm cutting a high pass filter at 170. Sometimes I take that all the way up to 250 because, like I said, the proximity effect really makes a big difference. All right, and this will probably start getting slightly louder as I go, as I add these plugins in. So I have that the first compression here is the modern. I use a preset called Modern Vocal 1 and just mess with the input and output. But I've not ever found a compressor plugin that I like better for vocals than this FG 116 Modern. So it's an 1176 Blue Stripe, but it's also completely redesigned by the Slate company to do some crazy awesome transparent sounds, and I love it on vocals. I have a relatively fast attack and a super fast release going right now. Usually I would do a slow attack and a fast release, but right now the sound that I'm really liking is this kind of medium to faster attack and a fast release. Then I go into a LA2A, and I'm really hitting some compression on this one. You can argue with me if you'd like. I compress the snot out of vocals, probably anywhere from 7 to 12 dB of compression. I'm not shy with it, but I find that it really brings the vocal up front, gives it that nice modern sound, and it doesn't suck the life out of it. So I then go into a de-esser. So I've got VMR, then the LA2A, then just a regular de-esser. I'm using just the stock one from Pro Tools. And then this bad boy. So because of the way that I have things set up for Pro Tools, I have every channel, as you can see here, going into another output. They're not exactly one-to-one because I'm not using all the inputs, but like channel 20, as you can see right here, goes out to channel 19. So on the X32, channel 19 will be where I can ride the fader. Now this is a great way to do it for live mixing because you have access to the entire X32. But I am a very top-down mixer when I mix in the studio. So I do a lot of bus processing, and this eliminates the bus processing that I can do. So I can't do like a master bus chain. I can't group vocals together. I can't group drums together. So I have to make do in different ways. And this has been one of my fixes. So on the entire master bus, I usually put the Mix Centric as one of the plugins. I absolutely love this plugin. This is the voice centric right here. So it's in that same line. Since I can't put mix centric on the entire bus, the entire master out, I use this voice centric as a way to kind of get that sound without being able to do bus processing. So let me unbypass that. You can tell it's already more upfront. It's got that nice clear vocal sound. I love it. I don't really know 100% what it does. I just turn up the intensity until I like the way it sounds. It sounds like it's adding a little bit of saturation, a little bit of harmonic enhancing, probably some compression. It's got a gain reduction thing here, but I try to not use very much of the compression built into this. I don't have any of the effects enabled as well. And then I have Vocal Rider. So this is really, really important to keep things tight. I use this on all my mixes anyways, but especially in a live mix setting to where you're trying to ride 32 faders, you can't always ride them perfect. So this is a really good tool to be able to keep the vocal nice and level outside of just compression. So all of the vocals are then routed to their individual channels. You can see the blue microphone is picking up right here because that's the one I'm talking through. So the blue mic is then sent to these three effects buses. So effects 1, 2, and 3. And I'll show you what they do. So effects 1 is just a regular reverb. Check, 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 check. So I turned that up for dramatic effect, so you can really hear it. The reverb is a regular plate reverb, and I've messed with the decay and pre-delay. And then I have also changed the EQ settings quite a bit. Sorry for the shaky camera movements here. I'm using my cell phone to get the up-close stuff. So I'm taking off a lot of high-end, taking off a lot of low-end, and just keeping that in the mid-range there. So I have the plate, and then I also have a second reverb where I'm leaving some of the high-end in. And it is the Vintage Room, and it has a long decay, so it's like a hall. Check, check, check. can also hear that pre-delay really kicking in there. It's pretty long. So I like to use both of those in tandem. Let me show you what that sounds like. Testing, 1, 2, check, 1, 2. Yeah, so it sounds pretty good. I'm really digging the way that these are sounding. So after that, the X32 has a preset that is supposed to sound like a memory boy, I think is what they call it. So it kind of sounds like like a space echo or a memory man delay. And I really, really like the way the delay sounds. I have it set up on a tap delay right here on number 7. So if I would tap it and then turn it up, check. Yeah, analog. Check. Absolutely love it. So that's my vocal chain and effects. So I hope that was helpful. That is my vocal chain and how I run the effects. I would like to point out also that on Pro Tools, I have the monitoring enabled. So that's how we're running tracks back into the X32. So I'm not recording anything. I've just got monitoring enabled. That's a very important part of what we're doing. Also, if anything changes on my vocal chain, I'll try to update that on this website. But that's pretty much where we start. I'll tweak EQs and whatnot for different singers, but that's always the starting vocal chain for us and effects. So I hope that's helpful. The next video, we're going to move on to the next most important part, which is drums.